This episode is sponsored by the Spring Forward Writers Retreat. If you're someone who has a book as your luxury item and you've been sitting on it for a while, I've got just the answer for you. If you need somebody to hold your hand or help you do it as a work session in person, the Spring Forward Writers Retreat is happening March 14th to 16th of 2025. It's happening in beautiful Kissimmee, Florida. So if you're interested in that, if that's something you want to do, you want to knock out your book at the beginning of 2025, let's go. Because when you come, you're coming with your book as is. Whether that's with the outline, maybe just a few ideas that you put on paper, maybe you're coming starting from scratch. By the end of the weekend, you will leave with a rough draft. You will leave with a manuscript completed. So that is the tangible item you're coming away with, okay? So if you're interested, go to tinyurl.com/spring forward retreat. Happy Wednesday, my winners and goal getters. Welcome to another episode of the Getting the Win Show. I'm your host, Mellissa T, the procrastination bully. If this is your first time, welcome. Our mission with this show is to transform you from a procrastinator into a producer. And you're getting those steps, that bit of help, from a recovering procrastinator. So I've been in your shoes. I know what this feels like. It's annoying. I feel your pain. It's annoying. So I'll share with you the things that I've learned and show you how I was able to move forward and become a producer in my own life. All right. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about that moment in your project when it becomes a slog. Have you ever been in the middle of a project and started to fall out of love with it? To the point where you really this is the point where you procrastinate. Like, this is when you stop doing it. This is when you allow the distractions to woo you away to do something that's decidedly more entertaining, decidedly more fun, instead of moving the needle on that project, on that luxury item, on that goal, on that vision. I'm going to talk today about how I learned to overcome that mid-project slump. If this is you, if this is where you at, you could put me in the comments. I'm with you. I know the feeling. Okay. So the first way to overcome that mid-project slump, one of the ways that I learned to do it, is to revisit the purpose of it. Remind yourself of why you're involved with it. Remind yourself why it's important to get it done. It can be as simple as, I'm on this 9 to 5. I'm part of this division. We got to get this done because we have to report to our bosses for it, or to our boss, depending on the corporate structure, right? Sometimes the why is as simple and cut and dry as that. Remind yourself of that. Okay. So that's number one, just reminding yourself of the why. Why did you start this in the first place? Why did you get involved with it in the first place? If it's a 9 to 5 thing and you didn't have a choice but to be involved because it's your department, then sure, remind yourself that that's what it is. I am a part of this department. They are relying on me to do my part and pull my weight. And we have to report to our boss or bosses when we're done at this specific deadline. Sometimes it's as simple as that. If it's a luxury item that is self-assigned, something that you received in your bosom that you were inspired to do, then remind yourself of what caused the inspiration, what sparked the inspiration. Was it that you heard someone speak and they inspired the idea within you? Was it that you heard them share their story and maybe you share that kind of story in common with them? And you saw like, oh, they were able to accomplish this. I can do it too. Remind yourself of that. Remind yourself of that why. Perhaps it was something that was more brass tacks. Maybe you were exposed to someone who showed you how to get the thing done. Maybe you wanted to do it, but maybe you never tried it because you didn't know whether or not there was a way to do it, or you'd never been exposed to a how, and you got exposed to that. You learned enough to want to change. Remember, going back to my episode about the 4 winds of change. Maybe you learned enough to be inspired to change. So remind yourself of that why. Like, you know what? I was inspired to do this. I saw somebody do it. Like I saw them break down exactly how they made it possible. And it's possible for me. Let me get back to it. Okay. So remind yourself of the why first. Okay. That can re inspire the fire or the love for it so that you can move forward. Number two, second way that you can overcome your project slump. Get a who. You guys have heard me talk about who, not how, right? Get a who. Connect with your who or who's, plural. Okay. I can share you this story in my personal life, and you can take this as an example and a principle. So I have the privilege of being a part of the UOU mastermind. Shout out to ET the hip hop preacher. But within that community, we have some incredible people that are also like-minded and working on their luxury items as well, whether those luxury items are businesses, that is the primary goal. Some members are 9 to 5ers though, and some of their luxury items are within their corporate structure. Some are sort of in between. They have their 9 to 5 and they have a business that they're building. But either way, from time to time, what we do, and this is the principle I want you to use. This is number two. This is the gem for number two, is getting together and having work sessions. If you go back over your why and it's still not compelling enough for you, it's still not sexy enough for you to be like, you know what, let me get back to it. Maybe that's not enough of a pull. Okay, set up a work session with one person or several people. And you each can have your own individual goals. They may not be working on the same thing you're working on. All the better if they are, but they don't necessarily have to be. But set up a block of time in your calendar, a specific day of the week, where all of you are getting together virtually, whether through Google Meet or Zoom or whatever, get together virtually. And for that block of time, whether that's an hour, a couple hours, whatever the case may be, and then report at the end of that work session and give each other progress reports at the end of the work session. Okay. That way you're keeping the commitment and you have the extra fuel under your behind, that extra fire under your behind to get the thing done, because now you're reporting to people in real time that you're working with. And if you're somebody that's in that 9 to 5 environment, maybe you're not working remotely, maybe you're working in office, do that with the group of people that you're working with on your 9 to 5. Or like that one other coworker on your 9 to 5 where you could be like, all right, we working on this for this block of time. Like, let's go. And then whatever, messaging technology you use, Slack, whatever, your IM, your instant messenger for your job, whatever, and do it that way. Schedule work sessions. That's the principle for number two. If you're in a mid-project, mid-work slump, get together with a person or persons and schedule the work session and work in real time for an hour, for 2 hours. And at the end of the session, come back together and give a report. Or if you are working on a common thing, if you're working on the exact same thing, give each other feedback as you're going through the project. A concrete example of this in my life, for the last few Fridays, several of us within that mastermind, we have scheduled our own working sessions that run for about 2 hours. And in our case, we were working on a common thing that applied to each of us. So for one example, one Friday we were working on our branding kits. So what we did, we each took turns sharing screens and we showed each other, all right, this is what I came up with. Does this make sense? And then we would poke holes or, just give feedback generally, whether it's constructive feedback or in some cases just complimentary feedback, like, yo, that's dope. That looks really good. I love that color choice, or I love that, that branding idea because this is what it means. And sometimes the feedback that you share can inspire them because it's something they never thought about, and vice versa. The same is true for you. The other person you're working with or persons that you're working with can give you feedback that fill in blind spots for you and augment your experience, augment the work that you're doing to move you closer to that luxury item. So that's principle number 2, working sessions to beat that that mid-project slump. Number 1, just a quick reiteration of that. Remind yourself of why you got involved in the project in the first place. Remind yourself of why it's important to you, what it means to you, what the deadline is, and why you need to get it done. Okay? A third means by which to get out of the mid-project slump. This may not be a universal principle. If you have ears to hear this, hear it. Like if it applies to you, by all means, take it and use it. But the third possibility is changing the format in which you're doing the thing. Whatever your luxury item is that you're working on, maybe it could be changing up the way you're going about it. Maybe change up the process a little bit. If it's been a situation where you've been solo, changing up the process could be as simple as doing a working session or bringing a who into it to help you move the needle faster. Sometimes changing up the way you're doing things might be introducing a technology, bringing AI into it to help you leverage your time, bringing in a software that can help you simplify the process. Sometimes the switch up may actually be going analog. Sometimes it may actually help you to write stuff down if you haven't been doing that already. Sometimes that can help because there is scientific evidence to prove that it helps to write things down. Things sink in better for us mentally when we write things down. But yeah, that third principle is changing up the format. Here's a personal example in my own life that I can share with you for why that works. So if you've been following me for a while, you know that I'm a writer. Okay. This bookshelf is like a snapshot of the nerdery that is Mellissa T. All right. I love books. I love writing. I love reading. And those who are avid writers are also avid readers because we absorb new inspiration through new information. Okay. So I'm a published author and I've been in the process of working on a project, a luxury item, since 2017. God downloaded this idea, this series to me in 2017. 7 years later, I'm still like slogging along. I'm halfway through the book. Okay. This is intended as a series, but I began it as a book because I was going to put it out as a series of books and then convert the stories to screenplays, which would then be made into a web series. God Himself gave me number 3 in a prayer that I had with Him in my quiet time with Him. He was like, okay, since you intend to do this as a web series, since you intend to have this made into cinematic projects, do it as a screenplay. Get that first story done as a screenplay. Change the format. Since writing it as a book in novel form, in prose form, is a slog for you and it's slowing you down, each time you work on it, it's like piecemeal. If you want to make more progress, write it as a screenplay. You're much more avid at writing as a screenplay. That format is a lot briefer. There's more brevity to that format. It's more of a scroll, so it's faster and easier to look at, faster and easier to write. And you'll get the feeling of making greater progress because you'll produce more pages. And for those who may not be familiar, those who may not understand the mechanics of screenwriting and film production, one page constitutes a minute of screen time. So my intention with the series is these are 1 hour episodes. So each episode has to be no less than 60 pages. With the way my project is written right now in book form, there are many, many chapters to it, but there's no way for me to quantify whether or not this first book is the first episode or if it would break up into multiple episodes. So because there's no structure there right now and it's fluid, God is like, change up the format. Change up the format. Switch it to something that is easier for you to understand visually and structurally so that you can get more done. And with that, that also introduces what I was talking about with the software. So I'm using Microsoft Word because I'm writing a book, right? So to write a screenplay, I also have Final Draft, which is a screenwriting software. It helps you write scripts. All I have to do is reintroduce Final Draft into my daily life, carve out that time to then transcribe my book, transfer it over, and reformat it into a screenplay, and then start to structure from there. And now that I know, since I'm using a screenplay format, now I have my limits. I have my parameters, no less than 60 pages. So now I know exactly what to shoot for and can get more done that way. So if this applies to you, by all means, use this one. This can help break you out of the slump. Change your format or change something about the method that you're using right now. That can make all the difference in the world. Okay? Number 4, perhaps this is your luxury item specifically. This is not something that is corporate. This is something that you've been inspired to do and you're sitting on it. You're in the mid-project slump. Perhaps assign a deadline. If that applies to you, use that. If this is a luxury item for you, maybe you haven't given yourself a deadline yet. Give yourself one. Assign yourself a deadline. Light the fire under your butt. Okay? And remember, I'm speaking to you as the procrastination bully. So I'm not bullying you, I'm bullying the procrastination within you. Bullying the procrastination that's holding you back. I'm here to cut the cord, grenade the chain that is hanging on to you, however you want to picture it. I'm here to set you free. All right? So assign yourself a deadline if you don't already have one. That's number 4. If you need help with that, hit me up. Tell someone in your life, and they can talk you through a reasonable deadline for you or an unreasonable one. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe that deadline is a little too far out and you need something that's a little closer to stretch you a little bit, to make you wonder whether or not you can get it done in that tighter period of time. The truth is you can. You absolutely can. So by all means, get that stretch goal. Give yourself that tighter deadline or assign yourself one if you haven't yet. That's number 4. Number 5, to get out of that mid-project slump, alter your schedule. Okay? This is akin to number 3, which is alter your process. But number 5, if you're able to, alter your schedule. If you're someone that's in a 9 to 5, you have a more structured schedule. Perhaps this doesn't apply, perhaps it does. But if this one applies to you, do this one. Alter your schedule. In a previous episode, I talked about the 2 different working styles, courtesy of the Hormozis. They talked about the manager style, the person that's more interactive, more social, they talk more, so they have a lot more meetings going on, right? They work in shorter bursts of time. They're usually 30-minute blocks, 45-minute blocks, 15-minute blocks, depending on who they're talking to, how long those meetings need to be, right? So if you're someone that thrives in that kind of environment, alter your schedule to match that so it suits you. If you're someone who's more of a maker, you're perhaps more introverted or perhaps you're more detail oriented, alter your schedule so that more days of the week have bigger work blocks, 2-hour blocks, 3-hour blocks, maybe even 4. And then have your lunch break in between there, a couple of other sanity breaks, whether that's a bio break, whether that's a break to take a walk, whatever the case may be, but set up those big blocks of time for yourself so that you can get more done. Perhaps altering your schedule can be the game changer to end that mid-project slump. Sometimes it's altering that part of the process that can be the game changer for you. So hopefully these tips have helped you in terms of overcoming that mid-project slump. If you have other recommendations, please drop them in the comments below. We want to help each other win. I'm sharing with you what I've learned along my journey as a recovering procrastinator to help me move the needle and break out, you know, move forward, get things done, become more productive. So if I've missed something, by all means, let me know. Let everyone who's watching know. Let's help each other. Let's move the needle in each other's lives. All right. Let's get her done. You are a hashtag luxury item. The thing you're working on is a hashtag luxury item. And we're all go-getters out here. Okay. If you have any questions for me, by all means, drop them in the comments. Let me know which one of these you want to use. If you're in the midst of a mid-project slump, which one of these resonate most with you? Leave that in the comments and let me know what you're going to implement immediately in your life. If you have any questions, hit me up on Instagram. Follow me there at Getting the Win Show and then DM me your question. If you're on YouTube, subscribe there at Getting the Win and drop that in the comments below. Whatever your question is, whatever your aha moment is, whatever your recommendation is that I didn't mention in this video, leave that in the comments. Be sure to subscribe, like the video, and share it if you find it helpful at Getting the Win on YouTube, okay? IG, Pinterest, and Threads at Getting the Win Show. In the meantime and between time, I love you. I want to see you succeed, and we're going to get it done, all right? Have a great and productive rest of your Wednesday and a great and productive rest of your week. Peace.